Yeah. All right, thanks. Bye. Sorry about that. Hello? Yeah. All right, so, I mean, we can check it off. I mean, I can, make it work. Okay, so let's start with the first things I want to talk about today. Well, the three main things. I don't even think we're gonna get to the last thing, but if I had three things I wanted to talk about today, I'd want to talk about you first, all about you, and I have three core areas with that. Then I want to talk about the role, the rules, and the routine responsibilities. So that's four things. I want to really talk about LaTravius, and then I want to talk about the role, and actually for yours I have an S because it's two roles. The rules, and that's the non-negotiables, but the things that are absolutely set in stone, and then the routine responsibilities. I think what I have seen in doing this type of work is a lot of times there is a gray area because the need is so great. It's everything that's needed. And you have whoever is the person that comes on board, they just do everything that's needed. Doggone it, don't let them be good at what they do, because now the reward is more work, right? And what happens, and this is why I wanted to take your Kobe, is things will fall through the cracks, not because it's not a good person, not because it's an irresponsible person, but there's so much. And what wasn't clearly defined were these three things I just said: the role, the rules, and the routine responsibilities. That's the baseline. What is the role? Not just the job description, but what does that mean? What is the significance of it? Why do we have to have it? What happens when this role, what's lacking when the role is not there? What benefit does it bring? The rules, what are the downright non-negotiables for you, LaTravius, for the person that you're working with, and for the organization? And then what are the routine responsibilities? I think I would love for you to have had that before the first 4 weeks. But we want to establish those. And I'll be honest, I know they're not established where you are right now, which is why we're having this call. Because we need to have those. Because what happens... All right. So let's start with you. What are your expectations? First of all, what do you understand your roles to be? Now you on board, you full time. What does that mean to LaTravius Smith? What in the world does that mean?
It means that this that we're doing right now is imperative, appreciated, and appropriate. I recognize my role by actual title now as administrator. I do understand that there needs to be some shaving or trimming or carving in that role that we have not discussed. And I understand that just from working side by side with Dominique for more than 10 years. And in the past, I knew that I'd just say no to whatever was unreasonable or I didn't feel was able to be accomplished with little fanfare, because I was working a demanding full-time job and was dealing with some serious issues that were a result of my cancer treatment and medical bills and foreclosure on my home and loss of my ex-husband's life and terminal illness of some family members that are near and dear to me that I was also involved with their care and their support before now, as well as, having a mom with a hereditary disease that is chronic, that will at some point become terminal just because she's aging and she's battled this for so long. And so I stood in a safe place saying, I can do this. But when I say no to you, then it's expected or respected, and understood because all of this is going on over here. The only thing that has really changed is I've shifted my perspective on how I allow this to bear on me, and I've taken the corporate workplace out of the equation.
Okay, so you shift your perspective on how you allow your family stuff to bear on you, is what you're saying? Okay. All right. Keep going. Okay, so and then in your role as administrator, so I definitely want to divide the organization. And so I want to be clear on I want to make sure that you delineate the organization in your mind as well, and in our conversation.
Absolutely.
You so in your understanding is that you are the administrator for both organizations, or what?
My understanding is that I am the administrator for Kingdom Light and for the Urban CEO, more like administrative support.
Okay. And for you, what does that mean to you?
So at Kingdom Life, for me as the administrator, it means to me that I now will administer certain things. Like I'll continue to manage the budget, and I'll continue to manage things that are specific to Dominique, like his calendar items, his itinerary items, his correspondence with external partners, and provide the administrative support to the church as a whole in terms of, processing mail and things like that, with that added responsibility of grant writing.
And that's for the church, or?
That's for the church.
Okay. And then what does that mean for, you said correspondent. Okay. And so what does that mean for, what do you believe, what is your understanding of the administrative support for the Urban CEO?
For the Urban CEO, administrative support is primarily those housekeeping type things, like making sure that the refreshments and meals are put together, involving everything from the ordering and paying for to the delivery and presentation. Also making sure that payment is settled for the facilitators, ensuring that the attendees of the academy have their curriculum materials, and making sure that ongoing communication between the organization and the attendees of the current class is happening. Communication in terms of reminders about upcoming sessions and things like that. And that's about it.
Okay. And so give me a day in the life. So if you had, knowing what you know today, okay, so yeah, what do you, give me, so many things I want to say. Oh my gosh. Okay, what's your hours for working, as you understand them?
As I understand them, and basically I just take my own liberty with this. My hours of working are from 9 to 5.
Okay.
With the conversation and understanding that I've had with Dominique, that 9 o'clock may start in my home and may end in my home at 5 o'clock, or it may start in the community. But as needed, I will be in the office, understanding that as I'm looking at things now and trying to build out my schedule and my goals and objectives, I know that I'll spend at least 3 days physically here in the church.
Okay. So walk me through your ideal day.
So my ideal day starts at about 6:30, where I'm now able to get out of my bed, go into my living room, have my morning meditation, take my time and have my tea or coffee and my opportunity for reflection, my conversation with my son, which then puts me at about 7:45, 8:15 for my personal hygiene to get me out the door, like my final preparations to go out the door. And then I head over to the church on a day where I'm coming to the church, and I'm making it to the church at about 9, and I'm checking emails and correspondence and things like that. And then I'm checking my calendar to see what my to-do list for the day is, or what things that I am reasonably going to be following through with my to-do list.
So how long does it take for you to do that?
How long does it take me to do?
How long do you estimate? Like, how long do you think you're going to take to check your email, calendar, and your to-do list?
I try not to spend more than an hour on my emails and calendar, because I don't try to do correspondence to those emails at that same time. I try to set aside some time to do correspondence that gives me about a 2-day turnaround on things. So about an hour, because I map out my calendar usually a month ahead if I know. And for my day-to-day items, like if my to-do list consists of 8 or 10 things, they are usually carried forward based on their priority. So. Okay. Mm-hmm.
All right. So after your to-do list, sorry, I'm trying to get my daughter to bring me some water. Go ahead. I know, because listen, the kitchen is right there, but I'm not going. Keep going.
Okay. So after I reconcile my to-do list, I actually start working towards whatever tasks are on there. And of course, we have a few interruptions here or there, but the only ones that I surrender to are my mom. One of the pluses and one of the things that was an ideal thing for me being able to come here is that my mom lives like one street behind the church, and she has become increasingly dependent for transportation and a little financial support. So from time to time, she might need a Walmart run, or she might need to go to the emergency room. So I do take her calls. I do take my 18-year-old's calls because we're in a season now where he's getting prepared for college, and he has Asperger's, and it's tremendous testimony and a wonderful story. And I know that there are certain ways that I have to support him right now, so I take his calls. I take my oldest son's calls, but they usually don't come very often. So if he calls, I know that it is an urgent matter. Aside from that, I put on Do Not Disturb, and I might have a look at it just to see what it is and try to commit to when I can get back to him. So as I'm working through my task, I just kind of go with the flow of my task, and I allow myself the flexibility of, I know I was supposed to finish this application for the tax exemption for the property taxes for the church. However, I do know that that's not a sit down in one session and finish that. I do recognize it as a priority because it will save us thousands of dollars to have that exemption. But at the same time, it was brought to me in the late stages of this. And so there are other things that have a more immediate priority that, you know, kind of go hand in hand with the importance of cost savings versus somebody's situation right now. So if I run into some roadblocks with a task that I'm working on that's on my to-do list, and I realize that those roadblocks are not going to be dismantled or overcome in today, then I find myself a stopping point and move to another task. And I try to be conscious to not overdo it because I like it here and I feel comfortable and free to work. I could very easily go well into 7 or 8 o'clock, but I try to mark my end of the day at 5. And the only time that I stay past 5 is if I see that I need to recover some time lost that was kind of beyond my control.
Okay. So one of the things you mentioned that was good, you said you want to stick to the stuff that's on your schedule. Is thank you. As long as unless and try not to well no you stick to what's on your schedule. You'll prioritize things based on what's going on, what stage they're in, and you try not to. But if somebody else needs something over, like somebody else's needs, what do you mean by that? What is somebody else's needs?
So an example of somebody else's needs is we have a mom who is struggling a little bit, and she has some developmental issues, but she's relatively high functioning. She has really applied things, so I don't have any trouble. I don't have a problem helping her. She had a bad situation the other day that prevented her from being able to pick her daughter up from school. Her daughter is just entering school. This is her first time in big school. It was probably her 3rd day. And mom was really concerned about, what do I do? I can't get there to pick her up on time, blah, blah, blah. And so I stopped what I was doing because the school is right here. On the corner, and it's also one of the schools that Kingdom Life committed to having a presence at and that kind of thing. So I stopped what I was doing on my task list in order to go and pick that little girl up, get her to her mom. That was a need that I felt like I couldn't rightfully say, I'm a Christian and I'm here to make a change and do a difference if I can't stop what I'm doing right now and help in this situation. And all total, doing what I did to help her probably took about 50 minutes. And so I stayed here probably an additional 30 minutes that day because I knew that I needed to finish up something that I started, that I stopped in order to go help her. So that kind of need.
And is the person a member or?
She's not a member right now. And the dynamics of it are that, she's stuck wanting to please her father and knows that she'll be browbeat and scrutinized and that kind of thing. And that speaks to her more loudly than coming to a place where she really feels fed. So she goes to her family church, but she does support us financially. And when she can visit, she does.
Okay. All right. So now, so from 10 till whatever time, you just working your list until it's 5 o'clock.
I do take my lunch. I take my lunch, no particular set time, but generally between the 11:30 to 1:30 time. And sometimes, I have stuff that I brought with me so that I don't have to go out, and I may take that opportunity to meditate a little bit or to pray about something that's hanging over me. So I do give myself a breather for about an hour during the workday.
Okay. Okay. And so then, because this is still your ideal day, so you're working your stuff, you got a break in between, then you come back.
Yeah, I come back from my break and check to see if there are like any new alerts, because from time to time people will send stuff that I'm not expecting, but like a miscommunication there. And I also build in time for the unplanned stuff with Dominique.
Okay. That's every day.
Right. But the beauty of that is day one, I gave him one of these. I said, you will not yell around the corner for me. Not be in here every 5 minutes. I will not be in there. We will speak over here. And if it's something that we need to deal with, then we will come together face to face.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, good. So then I need to know, okay. Oh, I love this. Okay. All right. So, okay. And then wrap me on up to the end of your day.
So I look at those messages that I feel like I might be able to correspond to very easily, and those ones that I can say, thanks, I got it, I appreciate it, I'll get back to you. I go ahead and give a response to those. Then I try to set myself up for the next day. And what that usually involves me laying things out in order on my desk and taking a few minutes to draft out some thoughts that I need to get out of my head. Like while I'm working, I might realize that it would be very helpful to put labels on the cubby holes in the front office so that all of the things that end up landing in the administrative office just by default, because we haven't had a full-time person, can actually be redirected to a place that it belongs, because most of it doesn't even have anything to do with me, but this is the office that gets attention and activity. So this is where people put it. And so even though when that idea pops in my head, I am so tempted to go ahead and type out labels and go in there and put them on the thing, I resist that temptation because I know I can end up in that office going, hey, this would be great if, this would add functionality. And so I draft out that note, and usually that note will give me some key points of that idea, so that I can grab on to somebody on my team and say, this is something that you can do when you're here Wednesday or when you come for a work session with me.
Okay, good. Okay, so that's good. That was a cross between ideal date and currently what you do right now. So tell me, what is missing? What is it that you feel you need looking at your ideal day now and what you have already done in the last 4 weeks? What do you need to be most successful?
I think one of the things that I need to be most successful is to have some things, not just involving my position, solidified. And what I mean by that is giving name and formation to some things that are understood but are not necessarily applied. So a specific example of that is we literally identified the deacons as the workforce that would manage facility operations. Facility operations, as I understand it, I'm not certain is the understanding across the board, even from Dominique. But being a person with deep roots of logistics because of my military service, I understand facility operations is everything from a light bulb out to the issue with leaks in the building, to people wanting to rent the facility or tour the facility. That's facility operations for me. I think facility operations needs to have a specific definition and policy and procedure. And I think that a facility operation issue doesn't need to be reported to me for me to report to the deacons. I think the facility operations issue needs to be directed straight to the deacons, and I should not become involved unless there is a monetary issue where either they do not have the tools to pay for it, like the debit card or a check or anything like that, or they need to verify that it's an expense that we can handle. That's the only time that I feel like I should be communicating with facilities. So that's an example of things that need to be solidified. Another thing that needs to be solidified is Dominique's expectations for me. Because before transitioning over, he asked a lot about my hours of operations and my location, and he left it very open-ended. But because I know him, I understand that there's something that he has in mind that he's probably not sharing right now because he doesn't want to come across as the guy with the iron fist that's telling me what to do. Or I can also say with a level of confidence that he respects that although he might feel like it should be this way, I bring value to the discussion of there might be a better way here. Because I did explain to him that although I'm careful to separate my home office and not just get carried away at working from home, that in the financial situation that we're in, if we don't have to come over here and turn on lights and air conditioning and things like that, then we shouldn't. And if we do come over here to utilize these things, we don't need the lights in the fellowship hall and the kitchen on if we're sitting in this office. And so if he's looking at these are the hours that I would like to have you here, I would like to know why, not to resist it, but to be able to offer a perspective on how we might be able to do things more efficiently than actually physically being here. Because gas is also an issue too. I upgraded from a small compact economy car that I could fill up my tank with $20 and drive forever to a mid-sized vehicle that I have to pay $40 and it might okay, just a second. Why we didn't use the radio? Yeah, we can use the radio. You know I'm in session, sending people to my office. Sade, he got a radio. Go get his radio for him. Where we going? Sade, you can go to his office and use his radio. Go to his office and use the handheld radio that he has.
Okay. And so you said $40. You're talking about gas. And so $40 now would do what?
Right. So it takes $40 to fill up my tank. And it sure does look like that $40 leaves out a lot quicker than that $20 used to leave out of the Toyota.
Okay. So you're mindful of that. Okay. Okay, this is good. Okay, what else would make it make things better for you, make you successful and more effective?
I believe for me personally that I have to rein in my super huge, okay, I will. My super huge, okay, I will is connected to my passion. And so I like grant writing. Let me put it this way. I like writing. And because grant writing becomes immediately associated with a reward, I like grant writing. But if there was no money for grant writing, I would still like writing. And so big boo-boo that I can't even blame on Dominique. Great grant opportunity came about. Dominique funneled it to somebody else on the team. It fell hanging in the balance because they wanted more input from him. I knew that if you want input from him, you got to sit in his face and say, give me that. They didn't realize that, or may have been a little like, but I can't talk to him like that. So it didn't move anywhere. On a Friday, he sent it to me. I looked at it. I loved it. I was ready to tackle it. I realized probably an hour into reading all of the parts about it is that it was due Wednesday.
Oh, they had already passed.
I said I realized that it was due Wednesday, the Wednesday following the Friday that I found out about it. Mm-hmm. And so I still tried it. Mm-hmm. It was 12 pages. Mm-hmm. And I submitted it like at 11:38. Mm-hmm. And for whatever reason, I have some speculations that came from the heavens. It did not go through. Mm-hmm. And I beat myself up until I reflected and realized, girl, it don't matter how gifted you are in writing, how much you love writing, it does not make good sense to have the expectation of blowing it out of the water when you learned about it on a Friday night. You had plans that you could not break for the weekend. And so you literally tried to write this grant Monday and Tuesday to submit on Wednesday. Mm. Yeah. So I should have said no.
Yep.
I should have said nah. But now I know that in regards to grants, that some parameters have to be built. And we have to be in a position to say that first and foremost, we gotta include space to search for grants, so that we're not getting them from 12,000 different directions, trying to filter through them. Like if we set parameters and make our net reasonable, and then look at those and make decisions based on time commitment, resources, and the reality of whether or not this is a good move for us right now to even pursue. That needs to be in place before we look at applying for anything else beyond the grants that are recurring that we currently get. Because also with grants comes the reconciliation of it, and that's a task as well. Okay. And that ran in my big, yeah, I can do it, is just with grants. There are other things that I'm like, yeah, don't do that. And so I was just praying about that in the sanctuary. Rein in and let me know immediately, especially when I want to, but I shouldn't. Just go ahead and say, no.
Okay. Anything else you think would, I'm excited. I don't know, is this first, yeah, anything else you think you need to, that would help you to be very successful, to like be effective and successful?
One last thing that I know that I have to have my part in, and I have to probably over communicate to Dominique that before he was my boss, he was my pastor. Before he was my pastor, he was my co-laborer with community work. Before he was my co-laborer of community work, he was my friend. We developed our friendship on having such similarities that we're almost able to finish each other's sentences. We have many things in common, including our birth date and lots of our characteristics. And so when we're on the phone, Dominique tends to forget that he called me under the auspices of friendship, but he moved into the woes of his concerns with the community, which then led into ministry issues that we're facing, that then ends with things that involve work. And so now I'm thinking that I'm on the phone with my friend, but I end up with a task and his heart for his concerns. And he has a fit if his phone calls aren't answered. But I let him know that a lot of times your phone calls don't get answered because I know you don't want nothing. And I know that it'll end up being a 20-minute conversation, and it'll end up being a new task, or it'll end up shifting the priority of where it already was because it's pressing on your heart now. And so I know that we have to figure out the way to steward these levels of relationships in a way that he doesn't feel like, man, I had to lose my friend in order to gain an employee, and that I don't feel like, gee, I just got the same boss I left in the workplace because of these unrealistic expectations.
That's really good. That probably it's good to say. I'm glad you recognize that, and it's actually the Holy Ghost that had you say that last, because I want to start there first. Because probably that is, first of all, I experienced the same thing. And with all my clients that are my friends, and my desire is that all my clients become my friends, so it can happen potentially with all my clients. So I had to, remember I said the role, the rules, the responsibilities. So when you get clear on what the role is, like what are the non-negotiables, what are the rules? I wrote here while you were talking, because this is also something that I think we need to discuss, boundaries. That's what really the rules are, the non-negotiables and the boundaries. When we talk about, and I can't believe I put family, finances, and friendships, and you said friendship. Because when your client, your boss, whatever is your friend, the line is so easily to blur. It's so easy. Dominique and I literally I could show you a text message from Monday, text message chain, and we literally just had Monday going back and forth, because my boundary is Mondays are my off day. Now, to me, between you and I, and all my clients, because I tell them that, but they don't be listening, Mondays is not for real my off day. It is just the day that I work on my business, not the day that I work in my business. So I have my team meeting at noon. And then I'm doing other things that I probably need to do to better me, to make the business more effective. I might be reconciling. It's Monday, Monday, so I'm handling my bills, but I'm not talking to clients. I'm not interfacing with clients. I'm not doing client work either. That's what's happening on Mondays. I chose Monday because of the type of clients that I have. I might be working on a Sunday because of something. I try not to work on Sundays, but if there's an emergency with the stream, or with a website is down, or something's going on that my team manages, or something related to Sunday, I want to be a low-key available, or some kind of way. So I might get a text on a Sunday morning, but I know on Monday, them jokers want to rest. So thank you. Y'all rest, I rest. Janice don't work on Mondays, right? So then I have to communicate. The thing about boundaries, I want you to write this down. Boundaries need to be established. They have to be communicated. They have to first be honored by you. So they have to be established, they have to be communicated, and they have to first be honored by you before you can expect someone else to honor them. So I established a boundary: no work on Mondays, no client work on Mondays, no client conversations on Mondays. That's my thing. I communicated. Dominique, I don't work on Mondays. I don't do client work on Mondays. I'm not talking about work on Mondays. Okay. And I had to, you definitely have to over communicate it, because I had already set a pattern that was contrary to the new boundary that I'm established. So it's not like he doing anything different. I started he doing what we've always done, but I got a new boundary: no work on Mondays. This Monday he calls me, he texts me, Jay, what's up with the email? I text back, it's Monday. I know, but just real quick, it's Monday. But just what is the login? I'm administrator, and I text, leave, period, me, period, alone, period. Right now, I'm still trying to make it really fun. It ain't gonna take me that long. I said, don't touch nothing because you're gonna break it. So then I picked up the phone and I said, you really irritate me right now, but I'm gonna call you. Give me a minute. No, he wanted to call me. I can't talk to you, I'm on the phone. Then he called. I call him back, him and Chan are having lunch. Jay, but just call me back. No, because it's only gonna be a few minutes. I get through. We go back and forth. When he gets through a lunch from Chan, he called me. I'm not available. I call him back. It ended up, I was on the phone with Google for an hour, and working on it for an hour longer, not to mention the back and forth exchange. And I asked him, I said, so Dominique, what was the urgency? I said, no, it wasn't no urgency. I said, it wasn't no urgency. You just decided, it came to your mind. You were impulsive. And so because it came to your mind, you wanted to deal with it right then. You dealt with it right then. And I dishonored my own boundary. Because that's what the rule number 3 is. You got to honor yourself. It doesn't matter how urgent he's acting. Establish it, communicate it, and you honor it even if they don't. And what happened is I didn't. So I lost that. I lost my time. And the problem is not even being rectified till Friday. And he didn't even need nothing. There's no emails even in that account anyway. And it was for no reason. But it happened twice to me this week. So I knew loud and clear because I had sent this message out. I knew the Lord was dealing with, is dealing with his women. You'll hear this again. In this season, God is opening doors for his daughters that are unprecedented for them, yet it's what they prayed for, and it is going to surpass even their expectation. But without the discipline, these same daughters who have been laboring in prayer, sowing seeds, sowing time, sowing energy, will be distracted and will not be able to receive what God has laid out for them. They won't even be able to receive and embrace the abundance of the fruit that is right there because they don't have the discipline and they don't have the structure. So the promise is there. It is now. It is not even long. It's here right now. But women, and it's specifically to his daughters, to God's daughters who've been laboring, who've been praying, who've been sowing, who've been hoping, who've been wishing, who've been receiving promises from him. This lack of discipline is going to devour up everything that they work for. And it ain't on nobody but them. So, and us. So seeing that, I was like, oh God, because it happened again the next day with my next client. The other boundary I have is I don't want to talk about work before 9 o'clock. So I typically don't talk to clients before 10. I mean, I'm not sitting down having no session with anybody before 10 because I want to get in and check my email. 9 to 10, that's exactly what I do. Check my email, get my calendar, make sure I go over my list, and I'm good. I don't want to be on the phone with you because I know I can't stop. I know I'm going to be pouring out more than what I anticipated. I'm going to be doing the Janets. Well, that means I don't need to have a scheduled appointment prior to 10 o'clock. And I really don't want to be talking to you. But I'm definitely not doing nothing before 9 because I got to have my quiet time and I can get my daughter off to school. I want to enjoy my cup of coffee. I understand what it takes for me to show up fully. However, I have one of my clients our team manages their weekly communication. Because we manage their weekly communication, I have a whole calendar on when things are due from them for us to get it out on time. Well, the client missed his deadline, but we're still going to be able to get it out possibly the client missed the deadline. But he going to do what most of my clients are trying to do. Send me the information at some ridiculous hour of the night so you can say, I did turn it in. So on Sunday at 11:50, I see the next morning that you're going to sit something at 11:50. I'm in the bed. I'm not doing it. But I do want to let you know, on Monday, before 9 o'clock, I'm texting Sam. Just want to give you a heads up. I did receive it. The team is working on it. We likely will not get the communication out on time. You need to get that?
No, I'm looking at the camera. I didn't realize it was raining so hard.
Okay. We need to get it. We're going to probably be late with the communication. I just want to give you a heads up. He responded back. Thanks for the heads up. Can we do this? I text back. We can. No problem. All right. I'll talk to you a little bit later. He texts back, hey, can I send you this? I said, I started text, but I'm not officially in the office, but wanted to get you out. I'll be in the office at 9. So then we're going back and forth, but I wanted to get you this information. Hey, we're going to be delayed. Just want to give you a quick heads up. Then he texts back, okay, what about this option? I'm texting back, that option is fine if you want to. He texts back. Then he says, look at this. And I'm like, yep, I'll be in the office at 9. Then he texts back, but you can take a look at it real quick. It's not that long. I text back. I'm in the middle of my quiet time. I only hopped on to share this information with you. I'll take a look at it when I get in at 9. Text back, I'm sorry. And I text back, no worries, you didn't know. Another example, just the back and forth. I'm dishonoring my own boundary. Now, I didn't look at it until 9, but the texting back and forth. So I had the boundary established, but if I don't honor it, they'll never honor it. And I got to honor it at all costs. I have to honor it at all costs, whatever their boundaries are. And so I'm not saying go now and get 15 boundaries. It may start with you only establishing a few, but it's going to be important that you establish those. So what I tell Dominique is, because let me tell you something, it's not just Dominique, it's every client that is a friend, and most clients are my friends. If we're not careful, all conversations with the visionary are going to lead with me having an assignment. So what I do is friend call. Tell me this is a friend call. Or when I see them going there, I say, oh, I'm not in work mode. I've even told Dominique, I said, some things get missed because we're visioning as friends and I don't have a notebook out, and then it get missed. But we didn't make it formal. So I'm not expecting them to establish my boundaries. I'm going to establish my own boundaries. I'm going to communicate them, and I'm going to honor them. Step number 4, don't be moved when other people don't honor it. Because if you get moved, it's another distraction. So number 1, you establish it. Number 2, you communicate it. Number 3 is the biggest one. You honor it first. And number 4, don't be moved if others don't honor it. More than likely, they're not going to honor it for a long time because it's changed, it's uncomfortable, and it doesn't suit what they need. But in order for you to be the best you and you to show up fully and support the way that you need to, you have to know and honor your own boundaries. Now, you also want to establish, as a woman, you want to be clear about the boundaries that you have with your male leaders, period, because they're male, but extra careful because if they are married.
Right. So 2 things on that. One thing is I probably just told Chan about a month ago my testimony with First Lady Drama and how it led me to Kingdom Life. And of course, I shared it with her only after confirmation of the Holy Spirit. And I think it was a good thing. And then probably 2 weeks ago, I sat down at a meeting with her and a dear friend of hers who is also a newer member. And the dear friend let it out the bag and said, Chan is good because I am protective of and selfish with my husband. You couldn't be here. If it were me, I would be trying to get you gone. Now, I expected that a little bit from Chan. And I can't say that she doesn't feel that way because I can't speak to how she feels. And she hasn't communicated anything back to me other than thank you for sharing that testimony. I feel like, well, I know that my experience with the First Lady was a test to equip me for here. I didn't know that until later on. But in that testimony, the First Lady came for me. She came for me very hard, and she came for me in a way that everybody and their mama was like, why did she grab you out of the air? Like, why you? And I understood now the why me is because all of that was so far-fetched. And even though there's some healing and things that stem from the brokenness of that First Lady, that this came to pass, the test in it and the lesson in it for me was to understand that it matters not if you were guilty or not. You need to understand what comes to bear on the heart of the First Lady so that you know how to pray for her, how to love her, and how not to be hindered by any antics that come out. But it also helped me to understand how to go the extra mile to assure. And even when you do that, it's not assurance for some people, but how to go the extra mile to assure so that when I come back to a place of reflection, I know that I have extended every courtesy of respect so that you know. And I explained to Chan that I pray for her more than I do for Dominique. And I explained to Dominique, one of the reasons that I am so willing to do the things that I'm willing to do is because I know that it will open time for him to minister and be with his family, because I recognized a long time ago, I didn't like the way that he interacted with his daughter. And I didn't like the way that, although he understands his wife is an introvert and he is an extrovert or ambivert, that he kind of took that because I'm so social and she knows it and she said yes and she's not that social, this gives me the liberty to go do because she don't want to do it. Well, even if she doesn't want to do it, this sometimes means that even if you have the liberty to, you should probably just go home and be home. And sometimes you should not give me a call, friend or coworker, because I know as a woman, if you're always talking to LaTravius and you work with LaTravius now and you're on boards with LaTravius, even if there is not a thing going on, the appearance of can really affect her in a way that causes the enemy to be able to say, mm-hmm. And I don't care how beautiful you are. I believe she is a beautiful woman. She gets sick of my compliments, but they are true from my heart. I believe she is a beautiful woman, but even the most beautiful woman has uncertainties and has insecurities, and they're not helped. And it doesn't matter whether I think I'm as beautiful as her or more beautiful, or that it doesn't matter what I think when it comes to her feelings. She could see me as the modern day Lena Horne, and here I am working with her husband when I see myself as the dumping front. But it's all about her feelings and where she is. And so that you just said, for us as women, I definitely am very sensitive to, pray about often.
Good. And I appreciate you sharing. And I'll just tell you, because it's now, if it's 2018, I started in 2007. This is year number 11 of working with men who have wives intimately, and with their vision. And I don't think I have some days, but I don't think that I'm unattractive. And I was not always married in this role. And it posed a very visible, although it probably was not even real, probably wasn't I didn't feel like it was like I didn't feel like it was a tangible threat, but it was a visible threat to a lot of the marriages, regardless of what the first lady goes through. It has less to do with all the other stuff that they go through. I've learned over the years. I'll tell you, when somebody first talked to me about it, it's so funny because even talking to you now, it's so funny that I'm about to say this, because I was in Macon at a tent revival with Dominique when he used to go to, do you know his friend Mo? I guess y'all are friends. Okay. Mo and I can't remember what his wife's name, but his wife prophesied to me. I was in my 20s, and she was just like, God's going to use you, and you can't be all up in these men's faces. And I remember when she said it, I was like, I don't even know what she talked about. She said, because they're going to be drawn to you. And I was like, oh, here we go again with another person with this. And they're going to be drawn to the Lord, the glory of the Lord that is on you, and they're going to want to be close to you. Do not be in their faces. I'm in my early 20s when she's telling me this. And I was rejecting it a bit because I feel like, just like the reward for, I know this, just like the reward for hard work is more work, the reward for outer beauty is a label as a woman, like you some kind of way.
Mm-hmm.
You don't even be thinking that. Half time you might not even be feeling like you're beautiful. So it's two things. We can say a lot of people feel that way, but what I realized is that two things were at work. We had the overall prejudice or generalization or bias of society. We had the history of the church and men who were not,
excuse me.
mm-hmm. And I'm going to the restroom while you do that.
Yes, sir. Okay.
What I was saying was we also have not just what's in the culture, but because of the indiscretions of men and women in the church over the years, there's a stigma. Then we got just then we have so we have those things at work. We got the culture, we got the overall just the prejudice that's in the culture. We have the stigma of the sin that had this particular sin or type of sin, a sin associated with these types of things that's happened in the church with men of God by apparently, it's always the woman's fault, whatever, some kind of way. And then we have an enemy. Somebody in there?
Sorry.
I said somebody in there with you?
No.
Okay.
No, I'm sorry.
Okay, no problem. Okay, no, you're good. So then we also have, LaTravius, we have the work of the enemy. We have the temptations. We have, what he uses, his tactics, and we have the fact that we are human. But this is the fourth thing that people, and I had to realize this, we have the consequences, the undealt with consequences of our previous sin.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't know what your story is. I'm just going to tell you mine. Because I didn't know that was impacting how people were seeing me, how women were seeing me. I didn't even know. But because I had a past, a not so beautiful past, you've heard me talk about it before. Hold on. Knowing that, coming into the sacred and very sensitive role as a person who is carrying and executing the vulnerable vision of a leader puts you in a very, very sensitive position, especially when they're married. Mm-hmm. What's going to happen, whether you have noticed it or not, is you're going to hear things that their spouse has never heard. You're mm-hmm. going to believe in them in ways that their spouse is unable to, not because sometimes because they don't want to, but a lot of times because they see a whole picture. You only have to deal with this. Mm-hmm. And with others, it turns up their attraction. I am the topic. I have been the topic of so many households. I'm talking about so many, even when I'm close with the first lady. I mean, like, I've been the topic, and so when I'm talking to the client, I'm saying, my name can't always come out your mouth at your house. I'm a woman. I ain't gonna appreciate it. I don't care what it is. I don't care if she dog ugly. I'm just, it can't be, will she understand? Will she know this? Well, I got to tell her this. I got to run this by her. And they don't know. And even though you tell them, you could tell them all the time. So what you could tell them, because I do. But what I also do is I model it for them. And I set very clear boundaries, especially because I'm a wife and I'm married to a man who don't be playing with no games. And I just see not only what the appearance of it is, I understand the sensitivity of it. Some wives not only do they not understand it, LaTravius. I mean, not only do they not know. Not only are they ignorant to the complete vision, a lot of them don't understand it.
And mine, I don't know if we want to record this.
Okay.